Hello everyone and welcome to another video. In this video I'm talking about habit development and things like this. Let's get into it. Habits, they're very important, and I think that if you are not focusing some effort, a little bit of effort at least, then you're giving yourself a massive injustice, because a lot of the things that you do from a day to day is through the habits that you've developed previously and what you've told yourself that you consider acceptable, and letting yourself go fully automated and go through process. Habits is a way for your brain to automate different processes that you go through typically and that you've recognized as something with a reward, so that you can free up cognitive space, capacity, workload, so that you can think about other things. That's why when you start driving, it's particularly difficult to begin with, because you've got a sensory overload. Your brain is not sure what to automate. After some time, it becomes easier and easier as your brain starts to automate some of the processes. They say that around 40% of the time you are completely autopilot and you do not think about what you are doing. I've seen these numbers change from time to time with different studies, so I would not know the exact number, but it's safe to say around 40, if not more, 50%, which is half of the time, you are completely automated. What this means is that if you are learning how to develop your habits more effectively, then whilst you're on autopilot, you can ensure that your brain and your body is going to do you a service rather than working against you. It'll be doing the automated tasks that you have told to do it previously. Quote by Seneca, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is a habit, not an action. It is the things that you repeatedly do." The most worrying thing I would say is when you've got habits that don't necessarily seem on the surface that negative, because these are the ones that you could repeat consistently and fully justify it with no conscience, with a clear conscience about it. It could be something as simple as having an extra coffee in a day or something like this, or smoking a cigarette. Consequences of them are not so clear because it's in a very long time scale. Whereas if you compounded 6 years worth of smoking in one day and you've seen the results, more and more people would avoid starting this task to begin with. Positive behavior change is not the absence of an action, it's the continuation of a better action. It is difficult to try and stop doing something, although it's a lot easier to actually start something more positively, to shift attention away from the thing you want to avoid. It is difficult to just say stopping doing something. Like for me to say I'm going to stop smoking, now I'm triggered every time to remind myself stop smoking, stop smoking. As a result, it's like saying stop thinking about pink elephant, and then automatically you're thinking about it. Instead, think about the positive actions that you want to establish, such as exercising more. It could be daily runs, and associate a reward with that. Some of the problems with behavioural changes is once that it's initially changed, people think they've beaten a bad habit and they fall back into the bad tendencies that put them into that situation to begin with. A drinker, a heavy drinker, might stop drinking for X amount of time, and as a result reward themselves with drinking because they think they have control over it now. But the purpose of a habit is a continuation of the action, and as soon as you break it, it's not exactly a habit, is it? You can sustain behavioral changes a lot more effectively if you track your progress with the different habits that you're developing. They say that if you wrote a diet diary or a money finance diary and just track all your calories, all the things you're eating, all the things you're buying and spend your money on, it will raise your awareness in each instance of what you are actually doing, and you can short circuit this automated system or the process that your brain is going through when it's trying to automate everything. You're writing it down and you can be made aware, and just the mere act of being aware of it can help influence the change of it. So if you want to develop a habit, start tracking your progress. They say that before you can manage something, you need to be able to measure it effectively so you can adjust accordingly. So it's the same as track runners. They measure the amount of time it takes them to get to the finish line, so they can adjust accordingly and see what's working and what's not. The same instance applies with everything else. Track your habits to be able to understand them, raise your own awareness and change the habit. In the book The Compound Effect, page 88, it takes 300 instances of positive reinforcement to develop a strong new habit. Again, all these numbers change from book to book and study to study, so I would not know the exact number, but I would recommend that you would approximate an average number, that what you would think would be ideal for developing a habit, and have that as your goal, your initial goal to aim towards, because then you've got a definitive quantifiable number that you can aim at. Imagine, for instance, 60 days. If I said to you 60 days to develop a habit, effective habit, well then you can give yourself a 60-day timeline, accomplish that and hope that it's going to be enough momentum to maintain for the X amount of time. Preparation is extremely important, especially when considering developing habits, because you are automated 40 if not more % of the time. So you need to prepare your environment to make it easier for you to commit to the different types of habits that you're trying to develop. Paths of least resistance and paths of most resistance. If you adjust your environment so you've got your gym gear close and easy accessible and ready at hand, it's going to be easier for you to just seemingly spontaneously go and commit to it. The same as if I stripped away everything that you own and only given you a book, then you're going to be more likely to be reading that book simply from lack of choice. So what I'm saying is, when you adjust your environment, think about the choices that you want to give your automated self. If you had low-hanging fruit, arm level in your kitchen, it's going to be easier for you to actually just grab it and eat it, rather than in contrast, if you had loads of chocolate bars on the counters, then you're going to be more likely to be eating that, simply because of convenience. People are as lazy as they can be. Another thing that's important is having a plan. You are more likely to follow a plan if you have a plan. And a book that I was reading called The Power of Habits, it was talking about studies conducted with people doing hip replacements, and they was doing comparisons of people that planned for how they're going to heal and they're going to rehabilitate themselves after a hip replacement, and the other people if they just winged it and spontaneously went through the motion. They found that the people with a plan, an actionable plan, healed twice as fast, and this is because they had regular times of stretching, regular times that they can be doing things to maintain themselves, and rewards after to help motivate them and drive them through the process that they've established previously. Think about what you can change in your environment right now, in your local space, of what can help you achieve your goal. It could be something as simple as writing your goal on the wall, so when you walk past it, you've got a consistent reminder, that's my goal, that's my goal, that's my goal. It makes it a lot easier. It could be something like putting water in different areas of the room so you're made aware and you can easily see accessibly fast water, and it reminds you to drink. It could be something as simple as moving your Xbox to the other side of the room, unplugging it, turning it backwards and putting books where it was. This can influence you to be reading more, because you've adjusted your environment to cater to the habits that you want to develop. Keystone habits. So not all habits are created equally. You've got habits, but you've also got keystone habits, which can be considered force multipliers. Keystone habits is one habit that you commit to, and then as a result, consequentially, multiple other habits spur on. These can be positive and they could be negative. Keystone habits can be simple as things like the times you're going to bed and waking up, because this is going to regulate the amount of energy that you have, and the time zone that you're going to be awake in to help you with more effective or less effective lifestyles. Daily exercise to regulate like hormones and all sorts of things like this. Daily reading to stimulate different parts of your brain, influence different learning that's going to help you affect in other areas of your life. These are all keystone habits. They're very effective. Paths of least resistance. We often take the path with the least resistance. The least resistance it takes to get there, we're more likely to commit to it. It's easier to take your car than it is to walk 30 miles. Depending on what your goal is, what your motivational drive is, and what that means to you. You've got reinforced identity feedback loops. So when you commit to a task, you give yourself a reward. But that reward doesn't have to be monetarily with money. It doesn't have to be purchases. It doesn't have to be food. It can be ideas. It could be concepts of identity. So you can commit to running X amount a day, and you reward yourself with the idea that I'm getting one step closer to this identity that I want to have. You don't want to aim to run a marathon. You want to aim to be identified, self-identified as a runner, because this is consistent. You're thinking about the systems rather than the goal. If you had the system, because then you're automating over a long period of time, and you can have your identity as a runner. You basically, when your mind switches off, it's going to be autopiloting for you anyway, so it doesn't matter. Do the difficult things while they're easy, and do the great things while they're small. There's a great quote. Instead of creating goals, create winning habit systems. Again, winning habit systems. Your 5 minutes worth of exercise every day is better than aiming to go for 1 hour 2 times a week, I would say, because you're developing a stronger, deep network habit or understanding, self-identity that you will maintain for years to come. Consider your daily routines at the moment, and then now consider what that would look like in 5 years to come. Again, because of your habits, people lose track of time. If 50% of the time you are unconsciously moving anyway, and a third of that you're sleeping, there's only a short window where you're actually conscious and you can make decisions about where you are going and what you are doing. Think about force multipliers. It runs alongside with Keystone Habits. Thinking about the one thing that you can do that is going to multiply your results across the board through multiple different areas. These are going to be more effective. To give you an example, a force multiplier would be, instead of making this video now, I could have spent the exact same amount of time developing a template structured template of how I can be developing this video and edit it in the simplest way possible. The different steps in the process that I could be taking so that it's clear, concise and easier to understand for the next video, the next video and the next video. This would mean that every other future video I make from this point onward, it'll be a lot easier to understand and see where I'm going and the direction of it. That would be considered a force multiplier in a way. Mise en place. Do not underestimate the power of organization. Mise en place is a French term and it means put everything in its right place. Chefs will prepare loads of different types of food and they'll have it in a very specific place, a place that they memorize. And this is because then it's quickly accessible at a moment's notice. You can have your books in the same place as normal, your workout gear in the same place as normal, etc, etc. And this is going to help you when you're developing habits, because you can automate the system and you don't really have to think about where the items are. People say that you are a product of your environment and plants grow better under the perfect conditions. You can adjust your environment to help yourself. It could be the right temperature. Google what is the perfect temperature for productivity and learning. The best types of lighting conditions. For instance, blue light stops melanin, the brain's ability to go to sleep, and it promotes wakefulness, alertness, and as a result, it can help with productivity. When developing habits, you need to be willing to fall on your own sword. The sword of Damocles. It is the saying of the king, willing to sit under his own sword. When you place a bet or you want to develop a habit, make an accountability partner to help you and sit under your own sword by giving yourself a consequence if you don't do it. This is going to be another layer to help you manage your habit development. Be specific with your goals. If you're vague with the types of goals that you want to accomplish, then you're not going to be able to see and understand it and move towards it as efficiently as you could be. For instance, saying that you just want to lose some weight is way too vague. To say that you want to lose 5 pounds in 3 months and be able to lift 10% more or run 10% faster, it's very clear, concise goals. And again, you are measuring the goal and now you're able to manage the goal more effectively. The process of the change is more important than the change. This is a quote that I like, and I would translate the meaning to: the process of change is more important, because once you understand the process of changing, you can apply the same model onto multiple different changes that you want to make or habits that you want to develop. Always think about the actionable changes that you can take. Do not think about inaction. Think about the actions that you want to take, the things that you want to go through, and the process you want to commit to. These are going to be more effective. Stagnation breeds destruction. If you stop trying to grow, you are not going to feel happy about yourself. You're going to be depressed, and you're going to self-destruct in one form or another. So I think that's it for today. Press the like and subscribe for more future content. It's coming up to 2021, and I think you should make 21 New Year's resolutions, actionable changes, micro actionable changes that you can take to improve different areas of your life. You can commit to these for 2 to 3 weeks at a time, and they could be small. It doesn't have to be very big. It could be as big and as ambitious as you would like, but this is something I'm thinking about testing out for myself. Take care. What do you think about my lighting? You've got a nice shift from a blue, cool blue, to a warmer light here, which is pretty nice. Trying a different setup. Clear backdrop, so it's all clean and nicely. And then I've got these lights here. Very subtle changes. You can see there, warmer tone, and here a darker tone, which I think is particularly good. Okay, now moving on.